Hi, and welcome to Thursday, May the 14th. I am Michael Bean, and this is a confidence on camera tutorial. Uh, Day three of me trying to do these from the woods, hopefully with a bit better connectivity than yesterday. You can find more about these on our Facebook group, or if you go to confidenceoncamera.com, you can find links to classes and more resources. The Thursdays, we talk about industry, and yes, I still have yet to get somebody from. Hey, Josh. I heard that yesterday you entertained everybody with magic tricks. After I was unceremoniously dumped off. Thank you for that. Thanks for keeping everybody entertained for me. Appreciate it. Uh, Thursday is our industry day, and so I have a couple of things that I want to talk through with you, mostly resources that you should know about as actors. Uh, the now something. How many of you were here when we had Ben Cotton with us, which was last Tuesday? How many saw Ben? Okay, so something that Ben said, and you can watch this in the video. Ben's a very successful actor. He's worked a lot. Uh, that's something you might have heard him say in the interview, or you will if you go back. It is, well, when I first got to Vancouver, I just did everything, everything that I possibly could. And so one of the places for an actor to start, and I think something that's important is to do everything, is to take everything you can. One of the things that I try and do every time I do one of these industry sessions, is talk about what I usually call the actor's food chain, which is the sort of simple breakdown of who makes the decisions, and so that you understand each of those roles. And that's the producer is in charge of the money, and because they're in charge of the money, they often make all the final decisions. The director's in charge of the story, because they're in charge of the story, they often help make that decision about who gets cast. Casting director is just in charge of the auditions. So they don't decide who gets cast, but they do get decide who gets an audition. So they're the gatekeeper, which is why the relationships with casting directors are so important for film and TV, especially in Vancouver, where there are only 9 of them. Because once those 9 people decide who you are and what you're like and what you can do, changing their minds becomes really, really difficult. So establishing yourself as really consistent and professional is very, very important. And managing those relationships is very important. Talent agent uh, is they're in charge of selling the actors, and then the actors are in charge of their work and themselves. And so today I want to talk a little bit about some of the things that you can do to be in charge of your work and yourself, but I also want to talk about sort of why that's important and meaningful and relevant. So if you've gone back and watched any of the videos from casting directors, from Tiffany Mack, or from Jackie Lind, Judy Lee, those are the 3 that are currently available on and Chris Wasnzensky was here last week. So actually all 4 of those are available. You can find links in our Facebook group. The all of them talk a little bit about how they choose actors. Remember, casting directors, those 9 relationships are the ones that we are trying to understand and focused on taking advantage of. And initially, they're going to bring in people they already know have already booked work. Now if that's you, great. Then this part of the talk isn't for you. The After they've chosen the people they already know, Chris last Friday said that he and his casting partner sit down, and before they even look at who the talent agents have sent them, uh, before they even look at who the talent agents have sent them, they make a list of like, okay, here's the actors we think would be best for this, just based on like who we know, who we like best. Once they've scheduled those people sort of from the folks they know, then the next round of people are going to be actors who their photo, so this size, we talked about headshots a couple of weeks ago, is grabs their attention. If the photo grabs their attention, then they're going to look at the resume. And when you're thinking about it, it's not just whether or not you will do well in the audition that is meaningful for them. It's whether or not they'll be able to say to the person who's in charge of the story, the director, the person who's in charge of the money, the producer, yeah, you know what, this actor Amy, we haven't seen her before, like, or we haven't booked her in this thing before, but look at her resume. She'll be fine when she gets to set. Remember, one of the top level things is that everybody in this casting process has fear. Producers afraid they're going to cast somebody who will get to set and can't do it, and they're going to lose a bunch of money. Directors afraid they're going to cast somebody who gets to set and can't do it, and that it's going to mess up their story. Casting directors afraid they're going to get in actors who get there and they can't do it, and they make them look bad for the director and producer. The talent agent, well, we'll stop there. Everybody's got fear. And the one of the things the casting director wants to be able to say is, look, Amy's been on set before. Like, maybe I haven't cast her in something, but look at her resume. She's worked on things like that, like this in the past. Now, if you are at the point where you are getting started, or even if you're at the point where you're like, okay, I've done some of these smaller roles and what I want is to be seen by casting for larger roles, one of the ways that you can do that is by going and finding everything that you possibly can in the independent film world and auditioning for that. So because honestly, this was, I think, our first lesson about resumes. Casting directors and producers and directors are only going to look at your resume for 10 seconds. They're going to look at your resume very, very briefly. They're going to glance at it. They're going to see, okay, has she worked before? Has he worked before? How big were the credits? Are they on movies that I recognize? And if they glance at your resume and it is blank, it has absolutely nothing, then that's the kind of thing that these two people, the person who's in charge of the money, the producer, the person who's in charge of the story, the director, that's the kind of thing that freaks them out. Because they look at their resume and they're like, oh man, I don't know. Like, even though, Olivia's audition was amazing and she's like just what, she looks just right and she matches the parents and like she's got all this energy and is really great. Uh, Even though all those things are present, whoa, okay, something just happened in my video and I'm back. Uh, Even though all those things are present, look at her resume. Like, how do we? She doesn't know what it's like to be on a film set. If she gets to film set and falls apart, then that's going to be really difficult for us. So the way to insulate them against that is to get some of those independent film credits and student film credits on your resume. Now, obviously, it's going to be a while before those things kick up in a big way, but the place to go looking for those is in the resources that I'm going to show you today. But the reason to get those credits, like the reason that it is a good idea to go out there, and do some films with your high school, or your elementary school, like and to go and work on these projects, is not because one of them is necessarily going to like turn into a lifelong relationship and make you famous. Especially not if you're like, I don't know, playing the like kid at birthday party, in some student film. The reason you do that is so instead of nothing on your resume, or instead of 2 credits, you can have 4, or 6 or 8. And if you have not looked at the video lesson on resumes, highly recommend going and back and looking at that so that you format your resume in a way that makes it easy for them to glance at and instantly see. So the resources that I wanted to go over today are the Vancouver Actors Guide. So this is VancouverActorsGuide.com. This is the like fantastic community resource. It's free. It is subsidized by people who take out ads on it and support it. But for actors, it's completely free to use. One of the things they have is the best audition list in Vancouver. The It's updated very regularly. And so you would look at each of these. It tells you, okay, so there's a corporate industrial, right? We click on any one of these and see details. So Danlock Productions, non-union, corporate industrial, all these are half-day roles. Audition dates 11/15, online auditions only, shooting performance 16th, 17th. Okay, so there's things that are happening, already right now. Now we've got them explaining how they're going to shoot for COVID right here. We're shooting with bare bones crew of 4. There will only be 6 people on set maximum at all times, staggered call times. Directors and makeup artists will be wearing masks and following hygiene regulations. Now, if we scroll down here, one of the things that you want to clock here is the age and the gender, 20s to 30s female, 25 to 35. So you're looking for somebody who is in your age group. Now, I don't know, because it hasn't been on my priority list, so I don't know if this is getting updated right now, but if you are under 18, then I have somebody at my school, Biz Studio, that goes online. Okay, good. That's slowly loading itself up. That goes online, searches these, and then reposts them with the ages really, really easy to find. So if you go to this here, bizstudio.ca/work, then you should be, okay, so you can see that this one hasn't been updated in a couple of months. I blame COVID. I'll talk to Michelle about that today. The idea is that the repostings here make it really easy to scan down and see immediately, okay, great. Bench, deadline August 20th. Cool, I'm 7 to 13, like I can do that. So that's the Vancouver Actors Guide. Resource number 1 that you should know about. And I would say make an entry on your calendar, something like once a month, right? Like put and just put it on your calendar and follow it. It's the kind of thing that the first time you do it, it will take time because you'll be figuring out where to find the information. Second time you do it, it'll be much faster, and you'll be able to get it down to 15 minutes. Scan through, see if they're looking for anybody your age, and submit yourself. Now, most of these projects are going to be the kind of thing that you submit yourself for, right? So usually they will say submission instructions, so submission deadline, meaning when you send your stuff. Submission instructions, please email with your headshot, resume, reel if possible. If you don't have a headshot, then you send a clean 4x6 of you with a non-distracting background, like just looking like you on a good day. If you don't have a resume, well, there's a resume template that's posted on our Facebook group, and you can use that. Also, there's there's a resume template in the resources at bizstudio.ca/work, which is where we were just moments ago. And if you don't have a reel, then you can send in some video clips from class. Even if you take video clips from class and upload them to YouTube and just send them a link, that's enough. Just something so they can see that you are an actor, that you have done this before. Or a self-tape audition at home. Some of you said that you did the Nickelodeon audition. So if you got that tape, you'd throw it on YouTube with or I guess Vimeo if you wanted to password protect it, and include that along with your submission to something like this. So Vancouver Actors Guide. At one time, their forums were very active. I'm not much of a for like staying really up to date on online forums. But at one point, Vancouver Actors Guide was a reasonable place to go in and say like, hey, I have a question. Does anybody in the community have an answer for me? Which you can also do on our Facebook group. Nobody's done that yet, but like there's a lot of keen actors there. Actors Access, so actorsaccess.com. This is the division of breakdown services. Now there are 2. Remember the casting director, right? If there's only 9 of them, there's lots more of these folks for each of the projects. The way that they communicate to both the talent agents, and then the way that they forward stuff to the director and producer is through these 2 different services, or there's 3 now actually. But we're just going to look at 2 of them today. There's Actors Access, there's Casting Workbook, and Actors Access actually breakdown services. Actors Access is the one that we as actors can connect to. The one that casting directors use is called breakdown services. So if you ever hear anybody talking about that, and Casting Workbook. Now, those of you who have an agent now, probably your agent already asked you to sign up for both. If you are auditioning for film and television, especially, it's just one of the necessary expenses. Along with getting professional headshots, is your yearly membership to these two different services that talent agents use to send your information to casting directors, and casting directors use to send out auditions, casting workbook and breakdown services. Making sure that your information on both of those is as up to date as possible is really important. Now, it's possible that your agency does that. Some talent agents are like, yeah, we've got somebody, who takes care of it all. And every time you book something, or every time you update your skills, or every time you get a little bit taller, we make sure that it's updated on your resume. But not all agents do. And so knowing your login information and being able to go on and check, and especially when you book a student film or an independent film, or get an actual role in a TV show, putting those up there so that casting can see whatever is most recent is something that is not difficult. It will take time for you to figure out how to interact with their system, but it is not difficult to do. And so remember, the actor is responsible for themselves. And one of the things that the actor is responsible for is making sure the talent agent is everything they need to do, access to everything they need to sell you to the casting directors, or to help market you there. To go like, Amy's amazing. Look how amazing. See, here's all of her stuff that proves how amazing she is. Don't take my word for it. Look at her resume. Look at her stuff. Look at this video clip. Look at this pictures of her going off of ski jumps. Like, whatever it is that Amy's really into. Hopefully she has been in the process of teaching her talent agent, what that is, and including her in that conversation. So Actors Access. Now, if you don't have a profile yet, it's really easy to create a free profile. I know it's a lot of buttons all at once. So what we can do here is we can go to Breakdowns, Canada, Vancouver. Right, so this is where you would find this. Okay, current projects, Vancouver, Blood, feature film, Stephanie Holbrook, Wildflower. Some of these are going to be, even though they're listed in Vancouver, some of them are going to be from other places, and this have included Vancouver on their casting call. In fact, if you see a casting director who is not a Vancouver-based casting director, for instance, here's the comedy talent search, the Nick casting, Nickelodeon casting, open casting call that we looked at in our comedy lesson yesterday. Right, submission instructions, especially for LA breakdowns, this submitting right away is important. Now for an LA breakdown, as an actor from Vancouver, I think it's a long shot. Like, this is one of those sort of next level things. I think that if you were deciding how am I going to spend my energy, Vancouver Actors Guide would be the place to start, because those are local projects, definitely looking for local actors. A lot of these are going to be LA-based projects, and they're going, because they're LA-based projects, they're going to be doing a much wider call, and so this piece of advice from Actors Access of like submit on the first day if you can, that's just going to involve more work if you want to do that, right? It's going to involve like you looking at this much more regularly. So for instance, if we pick, say, this first thing, or a Wildflower. Let's take Wildflower instead of Blood, shall we? Look at that. It's a short film. Looks like it was posted just last week, Friday. Lally Tilly casting. It's a UBCT ACTRA. So it's a union short film. You're probably on they've got one of the ultra low budget or kind of student permits there. Wildflower short. This is a fantastic example of a real breakdown, which is something that we have not looked at yet. Amer Films, right? So they won an award last year. We've got the producers, right? See how there are 1, 2, 3, 4 producers listed here, and this is just for a short film. right? So the more is involved in making a film, the more people there are going to be. We've got uh, female, ethereal, mid 20s to early 30s. Okay, and then we've got descriptions of the characters. It's like paranoid, anxious behavioral scientist and the AI robot. Only submit identical twins. Please also include performers of an identical twin. Okay, so you can see that this is one of those ones that makes sense. They're doing a big, wide open call. So even if you just use this to get really familiar with what a real breakdown looks like, then that would make it a good investment of your time and energy. The other thing that you will use is this information here. Manage my portfolio, profile, resume, photos, audio. And if it's useful, feels useful to you, we can do a whole session, on the details of how to update those things. And basically, give me an excuse to go back and show people who've joined more recently some of the resume template, and then talk about how to put those in here. But this is the stuff where you, the actor, should get very familiar with just experimenting with this so that you can really keep it up to date. Now, particularly when you get into the next site we're going to look at, which is the one that I just closed because I was moving too fast. Castingworkbook.com. So castingworkbook.com, like breakdown services, is something that casting directors use to send out information to talent agents, and the talent agents look through those breakdowns, which only talent agents receive, and they submit their actors. So they basically press a button that sends my tiny thumbnail to the production saying yeah, or to the casting director saying yeah, I think this person is great. I think they fit what you've put in your breakdown. The casting directors are looking at 50 of these little thumbnail sized pictures, and choosing their short list of people to bring in. So this is set up a little bit differently than Actors Access. I do not know if Casting Workbook has a free option. They may. That'd be worth looking into. This is the sort of full account that you would be expected to get if you had an actual talent agent. Now I wish I could tell you that there is that you're likely to find a lot of good auditions, local auditions posted here. But unfortunately, that's not the case. I still think that Vancouver Actors Guide is your best bet for local independent films, student films, corporate films, music videos. A lot of stuff gets posted there. It's sort of the one place that I know as a go-to. Here, it's the managed portfolio that's going to be sort of more meaningful for you. And then, of course, you can look through breakdowns and sides. You can see that we've got a single script posted on May 6th. Paul and Amy, season 1, episode 1. So this might be a TV pilot. Okay. There we go. 35 to 50. Christine. Shooting starts TBA depending on COVID-19. Sides are only on Casting Workbook, etc., etc. So Casting Workbook, Actors Access. Now, just a quick shout out to some of the other resources that I've covered briefly in the past. CreativeBC.com keeps the in production film list. You know what? This is a longer link, and so I'm going to post it into the chat window just in case anybody wants to grab it. So this is the best place that I know to get a list of what is currently filming. You can see if we go back to the Creative BC film list, that basically, right? That basically everything is on temporarily suspended. Currently, the province is talking about letting the film industry restart as part of their phase 3, which at least currently is being talked about as happening middle to end of June. So the film industry might be back, or they might be allowed to start shooting again, by middle to end of June, based on what casting directors have been saying. Even if that happens, casting is likely to continue happening primarily with taped auditions and online. So so here I can look through features, I can look through TV pilots, I can look at the TV series. And so I arbitrarily chose one of the TV pilots. TV pilot is a first episode for a show that may or may not actually end up being made into an entire series. The Mysterious Benedict Society, which Tiffany Mack, who was here 4 weeks ago, was casting. Looked it up on IMDb. And I picked one of the existing TV series, Gabby Duran and the Unsittables. They looked up on IMDb. So creativebc.com, imdb.com, the Internet Movie Database. This is how you get to the point where you know all this information. Now, it used to be that actors who had like an amazing memory for all of these details had a competitive advantage, and actors would really put a lot of time into trying to remember all of this. Unfortunately, everything's available online now. And so you don't need to keep it in your brain. You just need to know exactly where to go look for it. The Mysterious Benedict Society, we can look up who the cast is. Gabby Duran and the Unsittables, same thing. Look who the cast is. Okay, so both of these are, and I picked both of these because I happen to know that these are both kids' shows. In fact, there's some of my students right here on these lists. That's probably where I should wrap it for today, even though I have, as always, more things that I would love to share with you. Do you have, I'll unmute all of you, do you have questions for me before we wrap for today? Okay, so to go over those again, it's VancouverActorsGuide.com. I'm putting them in the chat window. ActorsAccess.com. Castingworkbook.com. There's the Creative BC list already there. And then there's also imdb.com. Okay, the last thing that I will do is show you the IMDb page for Corinne Clark, who's joining us tomorrow at 1 o'clock. So this is, they've actually got a picture of Corinne up here, which they don't for a lot of the casting directors. That's what she looks like. You can see that she cast Deadpool, Tomorrowland, Star Trek.
Deadpool.
Yeah, that she cast a lot of big projects and a lot of television. So as we scroll down this list, look how many of them are TV series. That means not just one casting, but that means repeated casting for however many episodes, 8 episodes, 10 episodes, 3 episodes, 13 episodes. TV is where there's a lot of work for actors because they need new actors for every single episode. Charmed, Stumptown, Take Two, Salvation, 6, there's Deadpool, Altered Carbon, Lucifer, Once Upon a Time, 140 episodes. So Corinne has been casting a long time and has cast some really great high-profile stuff. If we scroll down far enough, this is just her, as casting department. She also has all of these as casting director. Pre-production, One of Us is Lying, brand new cherry flavor, Upload, which is a new Amazon series, Unspeakable, a series of unfortunate events, tons of stuff on here. So I will also, so that you don't have to remember the spelling of her name if you do not want to, copy this into the chat window. If you want to grab that and take a look in more detail, that's Corinne Clark, IMDb. Okay, if there are no further questions, then that is it for me today. Uh, Thank you for showing up for an industry lesson, and I look forward to seeing you tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Bye, team.
Bye. Bye.